Welcome to the Bankless by Design podcast, where we rethink money, ditch the system, and rediscover what it means to truly thrive well. I'm Tricia Miller, mom of 7, financial coach, and founder of Thrivewell. Around here, we believe wealth is more than numbers. It's about freedom, stewardship, and building a legacy that lasts. If you're ready to challenge the norm and take back control of your financial life, you're in the right place. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I want to talk today about the primary problems that the infinite banking concept solves. So, do you ever feel like the harder you work, the more money you make, even when you get a pay raise, you just keep adding water into your bucket and it's like it has holes out the bottom and all the water is just leaking right out? Well, I think we all feel that way. And Nelson, in his book, Becoming Your Own Baker, talks a little bit about the problem. And he focuses primarily on the first one of these, but he also does address the rest of these in the book. So I want to kind of break down the problem today for you into 3 major categories. And the first one is this idea of losing interest to banks. You see, we are losing a lot of interest to banks because of all of the financing needs that we have in life. So that one is pretty easy for us to see. And Nelson talks about the average American. He did a little bit of a study on this several years ago, and I think the numbers hold up pretty good. If anything, it's probably worse than it was when he wrote the book. But he says that 34.5 cents of every dollar that we bring in is lost to interest to third-party banks, whether that's banks that you're paying for your mortgage, whether that's interest on car payments, interest with student loans, or credit cards that are constantly resolving and charging us interest. All of those things combined, 34.5 cents of every dollar that goes through your hands is being lost to third-party banks. So I want to kind of show you this because one of the key things about the infinite banking concept is that it forces you to stop thinking as much about rate of return and start thinking about the volume of interest. So Nelson talks about the importance of that. So a very good example is to take and look at your mortgage statement. Now, as a real estate agent, I have had the opportunity many times to sit at the table at the attorney's office at a closing. And the attorney, if they do a great job, they go through the closing disclosure with the client, and oftentimes they'll get to this back page and sometimes they'll talk about it and sometimes they'll just kind of brush over it lightly, because I think if any of us really took a good look at it, we might just walk out that door and say, never mind, I don't think I want to buy this house. And I jest a little bit here, but I do have a copy of a closing disclosure here. So I kind of wanted to bring this up because it's an excellent way to really see the dollars that are leaving our lives every day as homeowners when we have a mortgage. So this is just one example, but the principles still apply to any loans you have. So even if you're not a homeowner, you have car loans, you have student loans, you have credit card debt, anything like that at all, any lines of credit. This closing disclosure I have is for a home purchase where the purchase of the home was $320,000. However, the actual loan amount after the down payment and so forth was $282,000. And I'm rounding these numbers. And I do have the disclosure here, the 5th page. It's always hidden on page 5. And I think if I show it to you, it'll actually read backwards. So I'm just going to read you the numbers. So the amount that this couple financed for a home at a 6.75% interest rate, which is pretty typical right now, and really is pretty average when you look at historically interest rates. It's not bad, even though we've been spoiled by these very low interest rates in the recent decade. Yet 6.75% is pretty reasonable in reality. So the amount financed, again, that number was $282,000 and some change. The finance charge, though, is $425,000 worth of interest over the life of the loan. So that if this particular couple were to take and pay their mortgage diligently for 30 years, by the end of it, they will have paid $720,000, again, and some change, for a home that they had financed for less than $300,000. That is an enormous volume of interest. $425,000 is the volume of interest that is leaving their hands for the rest of their life as they pay this mortgage. And I might add that the vast majority of that interest is charged up front. So the monthly payment of $1,900 has an interest cost out of that $1,900. More than $1,600 is going just to interest. And Nelson says the average American is moving every 3 to 5 years. And that means that we're always paying this huge amount of interest regularly out of our monthly income. And that's just the mortgage. Now, granted, that's usually the highest numbers because the mortgage is probably one of the most expensive things we ever purchase. But the same thing applies to cars when we finance cars, student loans, boat payments, furniture payments, credit cards, you name it. Anything that you're financing, you are generally paying the most amount of interest up front, and the volume of interest leaving your hands is significant. But we've been taught to focus on that small number, that rate of return, rather than actually looking at the amount of dollars leaving our household. So I want to give you a challenge to do this for yourself. Get out all of the loans that you have outstanding, your mortgage payments, your credit card statements, your car payments, your student loans, all of the things, anything that is with a third-party bank, and look at the amount of interest cost, not the percentage rate, but the actual dollar number, and add all of those up and see how much every single month of your income is leaving your household. And ask yourself, is that a problem? Now, here's the other question. What if you could actually recapture that interest, and instead of it being lost to a third-party bank, that interest could come back to you, to a banking system that you own and control? Would that be a pretty nice pay raise? I think so. So check it out. That's my challenge to you. I'd love to hear what you discover when you actually add up all of those numbers. And if that surprises you, we're just not taught to think about that. I wonder why, right? All right. So like I said, we might be walking out of that closing table, walking away from that saying, never mind, I don't think I want to do that. Now, but there is a solution, and that's the good news. The second problem is that what we're not financing, we are generally paying in cash. And if you've listened to my past episodes, there is always a cost to your capital. Cash also has a cost. So this is for my Dave Ramsey friends out there. They have been taught specifically to make sure you're doing everything in cash, as if that is so much better than financing. But it's not, because even when you pay cash, there is a cost. And unfortunately, that's something that we don't really think about. So when we spend $1 in cash, that dollar is lost from our lives forever. And that dollar could have been put to work to earn income for us. But when we paid cash, we let go of that dollar, never to be seen again. And we didn't just lose the dollar. We lost the interest that dollar could have earned for the rest of our lives. So for easy round numbers, let's just say we spent $10,000 in cash and we still had 40 years left to live. If we would have placed that $10,000 into a modest savings vehicle that could earn, let's just say 4%, that would have been a loss of almost $40,000 in interest over the course of our lifetime. So we didn't just lose the $10,000. We actually lost, I think it's like $39,000 and some odd dollars of interest in addition. So really, we lost $49,000 or almost $50,000 over the course of our lifetime for every $10,000 that we've paid in cash. So use your imagination for just a minute and think about how many thousands of dollars have gone through your hands in the past to pay cash. We pay cash for things like groceries, utilities, rent, you name it. There's a cost to all of that capital. And is it any wonder we feel like we have holes in our bucket? It's lost and gone forever. It's no longer able to work for us. So the infinite banking concept solves the problem of lost interest to third-party banks and also the lost opportunity cost of paying cash. So what's the rest of the problem? Well, the other piece of this is because we have so much money going out in interest and so much lost opportunity cost of things that we're paying in cash, we also wind up with just a little sliver of savings left. And that's why we wind up trying to chase the highest rate of return we can, because we have to make this little sliver of, 5%, 10%. Maybe you're fortunate enough to actually save 15 or 20%, but it's not a lot of our income. The average American is only saving less than 5% of their income per year. That's the average. So we're trying to make that little sliver go just as far as we possibly can in the hopes that one day, someday, that will be enough to sustain us when we finally get off the hamster wheel and quit working. When we're chasing a higher rate of return, the higher rate of return is going to come with risk. Then we take, most of the time, we're taking that little bit of savings and we're putting it in investment vehicles, oftentimes government qualified plans such as an IRA or a 401k, which comes with taxes and penalties. And so we put it in there because we don't know what else to do with it. We've been told that's the best thing that we can do with our money to get to a retirement. We put it in there and then we have a crisis. We have something come up where we need some more money. Well, if we were to go touch that, we're going to have to pay a 10% penalty if it's before 59 and a half. We're going to have to pay taxes on it. We're going to interrupt any kind of compounding that's in there. So we don't want to touch that. We think we got to leave that for later. So instead, what do? We run right back to the bank to borrow again at an interest rate that is taking that volume of interest rate out of our lives again. So, do you see the holes in our bucket? They're becoming clearer now, aren't they? On top of that, because of that, we are actually losing the ability to control our dollars. We have them locked up in these plans and we don't have ready access to them when we need them. Have you ever heard, I'm sure you have heard the saying, he who owns the gold makes the rules? There is an advantage to having access and control of your own capital so that you can use it when you need it. And you're not having to go beg, borrow, and plead from a third-party bank in the hopes that they will lend you the money that you need. And God forbid it's because you've lost your job, because now you don't qualify either. And you've got to run through all of their hoops. You've got to have the credit score. You've got to fill out all the paperwork and all of that and hope that they'll let you have the money. Banks are known for giving you the money when you don't really need it. When you really need it the most, their doors are closed to you. So the infinite banking concept solves all three of these problems. It allows us to recapture the interest that we're losing to third-party banks. It allows us to stop bleeding out opportunity costs so that we can get more of our capital working for us, while at the same time giving us access, liquidity, and control of our own dollars. I'd say that's pretty amazing. And when you start to learn this and you see this, you can't unsee it. You just have to ask yourself, how can I get started? And we're going to talk about that in another episode. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great week. Until next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Bankless by Design podcast. where we're done with the system and we're doing money differently. Be sure to subscribe, share this episode with someone who needs it, and visit us at banklessbydesign.com to learn how you can start living bankless by design.